I'm William Kumwembe with Business Time. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country, courtesy of Old Mutual.
Insuring and saving with Old Mutual means growing crops, growing jobs, growing a future. Creating mutual futures, your money invested for the good of all.
Coming up in the program today, we speak with a prospects for production of organic fertilizer in the country as cost for importing the commodity continues to rocket, affecting the agriculture sector. Also in the program, commentators continue to weigh in on recent policy rate adjustment. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome. This is Business Time, and in our main story in the program, Malawi is an agrarian economy, but year in, year out, over 2 million people face hunger. Apart from hostile weather conditions, the country's agriculture sector is largely affected by high production costs. Cost of importing fertilizer remains way too high, piling pressure on the commodity price on the domestic market. A local investment firm, Rural Development Investment Holdings, is putting up an organic fertilizer manufacturing plant in Uganda aimed at helping mitigating the country's agriculture production challenges. We caught up with Rudvit board chairperson Bufomo Nyirenda on prospects for the manufacturing plant.
So Rudvit is here as a private sector initiative to pull together Malawians to begin to start working together. As individually, we can't go far. We believe that by working collectively, we can do something big. In that regard, Rudevit was incorporated for the purpose of ensuring that it pulls resources together in form of people buying shares in the company, and that money should be invested in those sectors that individually we can't get into, but as a public company, we should be able to do so in Malawi. We are probably one of the first companies to be incorporated from day one as a public company. So that meant that we are going to have more than 50 shareholders. That said, the process towards recruitment, shall I call it, or involvement of the others into this particular company has not been an easy one, knowing that no one leader would wish to risk their money out of an idea which has not been tested before. Whatever we are doing in Rudevit is a new thing altogether. So the people that have come forward have been those that have literally said we are taking the risk, and we've actually welcomed them as such. So where we are sitting at the moment, this land was identified for the purpose of manufacturing or producing granulated organic fertilizer. And this is fertilizer which is actually coming from waste, industrial waste, household waste, sludge, and any other stuff that you might think is actually waste. We believe is something that we can actually put into process, ferment it properly, and make sure that we get a product out of it which should be the proper organic fertilizer. Let me mention right in the beginning that the National NBM Development Bank listened to us when we actually approached them to say this is the idea that we have. They listened to us and they offered us a facility which enabled us to do the importation of the machinery that you are sitting up in here. They offered us a facility of somewhere around 391 million kwacha, which would actually involve the importation itself and also pay costs for the construction of the factory. So whatever we are seeing, so the installation of the machinery. The construction was largely left to the members to continue raising the capital, from which we are actually saying that out of whatever surpluses that we generate, we should be able to also start repayment on the facility when the time becomes due. Yeah, so if you look at the agriculture sector, you will notice that it is becoming costly. Whilst in the past there were also people participating into that, a number of people actually pulling out because it's expensive for you just to think of the inputs, in particular the fertilizers. I mean, it's become expensive. I mean, a couple of years back, when we were actually concepting this particular idea, the fertilizer was somewhere around 11,000 kwacha. And today, you find the same fertilizer imported is at 97,000 kwacha, and one wonders, who is going to manage that kind of the cost of actually the input? So the coming in of the granulated organic fertilizer is to introduce what we call integrated fertilizer application, where you can actually mix organic and what we call basil dressing, and then the top dressing comes in with other imported. Basically, what it means is that the granulated organic fertilizer is going to be cheap, no doubt about it. It's locally produced, and if you average it with whatever you're actually importing, you find that you are pulling down the cost of the total inputs that you're going to put into the agricultural productivity.
In April 2022, the Reserve Bank of Malawi adopted a tight monetary policy stance, witnessed by a 200 basis points increase in policy rate, the rate at which commercial banks use when borrowing from central bank as lender of last resort, to about 14%. Since then, the rate has been on an upward trajectory and was recently adjusted upwards to 24%. But what impact has the stance made to the economy? Kumwembe Mangazi attempts the question in this report.
The main goal of a tight monetary policy is to combat inflation. By reducing the money supply and increasing interest rates, central banks aim to decrease demand and spending in the economy, which should lead to lower inflation rates over time. But has this materialized in the Malawi situation? A question for Bechani Chereni, economist from the Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences.
The monetary policy report is out. It's on the website of the Reserve Bank. People can actually go to read it and find out to say what has been the motivation. And the number one thing has been that there are two sets of inflation that are very important. There is what you call the food inflation and the non-food inflation. So the food inflation has been rising. Basically, it is on the account of supply shocks that we don't have enough supplies of food in the country, especially maize. So that has seen that the food inflation aspect has been rising. And then there is the non-food inflation factor. Since the last or the previous decision of the Monetary Policy Committee, we have noted that the non-food inflation has gone down to somewhere around 17%. That is telling us a story. The story is that, because inflation really is all about too much money chasing too few goods. And therefore, people, in terms of the imports for non-food commodities, those imports have basically gone down. Why? It's because people have had no access to too much money. Money has been a little expensive. That means that if we did not take that decision, probably inflation would have risen much faster than what we saw. So there is an effect in what the Monetary Policy Committee has been doing. So to deal with the food inflation aspect, not only money can solve that, because remember that food is a necessity.
A tight monetary policy stance is also expected to whet the appetite for borrowing in the economy. However, according to Financial and Economic Review, Volume 57, Number 1 of 2023, published by the Reserve Bank of Malawi, commercial banks' net credit to central government increased by 118.6 billion kwacha to 1.4 trillion kwacha in the first quarter. Such trends, according to RBM spokesperson Mark Longo, are factors affecting results of a tight monetary policy stance.
Monetary policy stance is taken after looking at a number of factors, amongst which is the risks to inflation, like I've said. So if you look at where we're coming from a situation whereby inflation was low. I think in 2022 we're in single digit, but now inflation has risen to over on average 28.3%. If you just look at end June, you were talking about 29%, thereabout. So you've seen that inflation has been rising, and therefore it was only in the view of the monetary authorities to adjust the policy stance rate in order to manage inflation. So if you look at the impact, yes, the impact has been mixed because monetary policy sometimes is not fully transmitted to the economy because of other factors. So you've seen inflation rising amidst monetary policy taking a tight monetary policy stance, but inflation has been rising because of other factors. In this case, you'll be looking at factors coming from food, which are really out of monetary policy control.
All in all, developments in the economy as stimulated by the tight monetary policy stance are such that the desired results, that is containing inflation and reducing borrowing, are not achieved. It is imperative for the authorities to devise new ways of achieving the desired goals without stimulating inflation from movements in the policy rate.
This is Business Time, a magazine program brought to you in partnership with Old Mutual.
Ku Malawi timanena kuti chuma chili munthaka. Ndipo izi ndizoona. Mutha kuziona zimenezi paliponse. Dzina langa ndi Chris Gadimani, ndipo ndimayang'anira banja langa pogwira ntchito ku Galamax Macadamia Nut Farm. Zonse zimayambira pa Nazale pano. Timasamalira mphukira kuti tikwanitse kudzala mitengo yambiri. Mitengo iyi ikakula, timasankhamo mtedza wabwino kwambiri okhaokha. Timafuna kuti mtedza wa Macadamia wa ku Malawi uzidziwika kuti ndi wabwino koposa. Tikakolola kwambiri, timalembanso ntchito anthu ambiri. Ndimakhala onyadira kukhala nawo otenga mbali mu zimenezi.
From the soil comes endless possibilities. That's why Old Mutual is investing for the long term from the ground up. We call this creating mutual futures. Old Mutual, let's do great things every day.
Welcome back. The 2023 tobacco selling season came to an end on Friday, with total earnings jumping by 55% thanks to improved volumes and prices. Figures from market regulator, the Tobacco Commission, show that the country has this year realized a total of $282.61 million US from $182 million realized last year, with Malawi needing $250 million every month. This means that about $282 million was realized this year is enough to keep the wheels of the country's economy running for about 34 days. This year, the leaf fetched an average price of $2.35 per kilogram, which was much better than the $2.14 per kilogram the green gold fetched last year. In this report, we look at how the market has fared by end of trading last Friday.
Tobacco remains Malawi's main cash crop. Its market excites many, especially government, because many, especially government, know then that at least they will be able to have just a little bit of foreign exchange that is required in the country. The tobacco market has come to an end with the closure of Mzuzu auction floors on August 4, 2023, having helped the country to amass $282.6 million. According to figures from AHI Tobacco Sales, cumulative national figures show that this market has sold 120.6 million kgs at an average price of $2.35 per kg. The cumulative national value of tobacco sold stood at $282.62 million, approximately 282 billion kwacha, up with 56.2% from $180.97 million, approximately 177 billion kwacha of value sold as of August 2022. Meanwhile, a statement from Tobacco Commission shows that third round tobacco estimate survey results conducted from June 19 to 23 show that this year's production is at 109.9 million kilograms. This represents a 29% increase from last year's production, which was at 85 million kilograms. At the beginning of this year's selling season, production was estimated at 126 million kilograms. According to Tobacco Commission spokesperson Teleforest Kumwembe, despite this year's production being lower than the trade demand, which is 170 million kgs, they are happy with the performance of the market. He added that throughout the market, prices have been good, and the rejection rate has been record low, averaging 1%. Kumwembe explains more.
As Tobacco Commission, we are really satisfied with the performance of the tobacco selling season, the performance of the market, which we closed on Friday. Throughout the selling season, we saw that tobacco buying companies offered good prices to farmers, and the farmers have also expressed satisfaction with the prices that were being offered. And towards the end of the selling season, we saw even greater excitement when we saw a new buyer coming in, and we also saw that the prices got even much better. So this has been a very successful season, not only because of the prices, but we also saw that the rejection rate was much lower than was the case in the past. This is an indication that the presentation of the tobacco was good. We also saw that we didn't experience serious market disruptions. If there were any issues, that means such issues were amicably resolved by the stakeholders that were involved. So this has been a very exciting season, and we look forward to an even better farming season next year.
Agriculturalist Leonard Chimwaza agrees with Kumwembe, but he adds that with the call from the Ministry of Agriculture that the Tobacco Commission should engage in a grow more campaign, we should see farmers growing more and more of tobacco. There is more which needs to be done from the regulator.
Yeah, it is very imperative to be orienting our production towards the market. I think what the Tobacco Commission should do is to meet the buyers in advance, so that each buyer, each tobacco buyer, should provide the tentative demand for the 2023-2024 market. And then certainly the Commission will aggregate the demand, and it is that demand that will help the Commission to plan accordingly on the total number of farmers that are supposed to be registered, but also certainly how much should be produced. Because it won't be good to overproduce the leaf for the market. Then definitely what will happen if we overproduce, we might have chances of oversupplying the floors with the leaf. Then definitely prices will be reduced, considering that the buyers won't be able to get what the farmers have produced. So we just need to be very prudent in our planning through the Commission. We need to make sure that our tobacco production for 2023-2024 is market oriented. So there shouldn't be any mismatch between the off-takers and the producers. The Commission is supposed to make sure that whatever the leaf buyers have projected must be that what the farmers should produce, so that the demand should be matching with the supply. And then we can certainly be anticipating a very good tobacco market in the 2023-2024 season.
Tobacco Association of Malawi President Abio Kalimabanda said while the revenue is good this year, it is not translating to the well-being of farmers. Kalimabanda added that going forward, players in the tobacco sector should come up and implement policies that will benefit the farmers, who are the main players in the tobacco industry. He added that in most discussions about tobacco pricing, farmers are left out. Hence, the operations of the markets do not favor the farmers. Therefore, going forward, policymakers should make sure that farmers are involved and market operations favor them. Tobacco remains Malawi's top export, even though for the past years, its contribution to the economy has been troubled. But if this year's marketing season is anything to go by and to continue, probably the Malawi economy can afford a fresh breath.
Minister of Trade and Industry Simplex Chichola Banda has said a deal to supply 100,000 metric tons of soya to Tanzania remains intact, and the local traders will make the most of the market in the neighboring country. Banda said discussions are at an advanced stage towards ironing out price disparities between Malawi and Tanzania. Tanzania Authority committed to have traders in the country purchase the commodity from Malawi last season, but the local traders were yet to start benefiting from the deal.
Just as many people are aware,
we secured market for 100 metric tons of soya in Tanzania. We've had challenges in terms of, farm gate prices. So we are still negotiating with Tanzania. They are still interested to get our soya. And my ministry and the Minister of Agriculture are now on a very advanced stage in terms of reaching an agreement on how best we can service the Tanzania contract, the Tanzania agreement. But I would like also to take up opportunity to inform the general public that we've gotten a quotaless market in China and India. These countries always buy legumes, soya, groundnuts, macadamia, beans. So we have the opportunity that Malawi has passed the phytosanitary and sanitary tests where our soya has been, declared good and GMO-free and can be sold in the Chinese markets. So this is another opportunity. My plea and call for commercial farmers, associations, cooperatives, and smallholder farmers that let us engage into very serious production of these value chains, because that's when we can turn around our economic malaise, because we'll be able to sell more, get more foreign earnings.
These opportunities or these agreements have been there for quite some time. Why have we failed to utilize or maximize the opportunities that are in these countries that we are talking about?
Sometimes our challenge could be the cap challenge, the knowledge, attitude, and the practice of our players. Do they have knowledge enough of availability of these markets? Now we are talking about the market intelligence. Do they have an attitude of appreciating, of selling outside this country? Do they have a practice that probably they can do things unusual? So previously we've had challenges in terms of popularizing these markets, but also that most associations, cooperatives, and farmers were not quite sure if these markets are viable. Time has come now that we need to break the barriers by making sure that we sell across the borders.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Trade and Industry has challenged private sector players to widen scope and focus on making the most of the services market under the African Continental Free Trade Area. It has transpired that since Malawi's schedule for specific commitments was submitted and adopted by the Council of Ministers at a meeting held in July 2022, the country is yet to record transactions under the pact. In an interview, Minister of Trade and Industry spokesperson Maison Sogera said Malawi is committed to the initiative. He speaks with our journalist Kumwembe.
Malawi actually submitted the our offer, what we call a schedule of concessions, and this schedule actually outlines the sectors, the service sectors that are of interest to Malawi in terms of opening up to trading partners within the AfCFTA area. So Malawi has actually committed to liberalize sectors such as the business services, financial services, communication services, tourism services, as well as transport services. This implies that we are ready to get the services of different players from member states of the African Continental Free Trade Area to come and operate in Malawi in these important services. On the other hand, we feel that we also have service sectors that are of interest to Malawi in terms of positioning them also for the AfCFTA. And we are looking at sectors such as the financial sector, the tourism sector as well as professional services, because we believe that Malawi has got, for instance, lots of areas for tourist attractions. such that we can export a lot of tourism services. We would want to see various people coming into Malawi and explore the beautiful areas for tourism in the country. In so doing, we'll be able to generate foreign exchange. At the same time, we believe that even our financial services, the financial sectors like the banks, can actually position themselves as well to get established in different countries under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Likewise, professional services. Malawi has produced a lot of experts, personnel in the health sector, even accountants. We have produced quite a lot of them, and would want to export such kind of professional services to also other countries within the AfCFTA.
Well, with that story, we've also come to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country, courtesy of Old Mutual. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm William Kumwembe. But always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Stay safe and bye for now.